The Marvels, the movie that has nobody talking about it because no one saw this movie in theaters. That's unfair to say. It did gross $47 million its opening weekend, significantly lower than the rest of the MCU. This continues the discussion. Is the MCU in decline? What is going on? Is there superhero fatigue? And is Marvel just to blame for this all? And what fault of this is Disney? We're going to touch on this a little bit today, but primarily this is a review of the film The Marvels, which stars Brie Larson, Teyonah Parris, and Iman Vellani. So let's do this. For this review, we are going higher, faster, stronger, whatever they say, and let's jump into The Marvels. So, The Marvels, this is I don't even pretend to know what number installment this is within the MCU. This is a sequel to the 2019 film Captain Marvel, a film that I defend, although I fully admit it is flawed. It is also a sequel to WandaVision, Secret Invasion, kind of, Miss Marvel. It's balancing a lot of hats in this movie, and that's probably one of the issues with this movie. This film has something to do about the Kree/Skrull wars in it. I can't tell you exactly what the plot of this movie is, but essentially Krees are mad at Marvel, Captain Marvel, I should say, for destroying their home planet, destroying their source of power, something like that. And thus this villain wants to destroy the world, wants to kill Captain Marvel, who they call the Annihilator. And there's also this something going on with the powers that bind all three of these characters, Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and Miss Marvel, based on Miss Marvel's bracelets, and it's switching them in different places. Now, I will just start with this. There are aspects of the Marvels that I truly think are good. There is quite a bit to recommend within the Marvels, specifically the performances. Iman Vellani, who plays Miss Marvel, I thought she was a gem in her TV show, and I think she is wonderful in the Marvels. I think she brings a lot of chemistry out of the entire cast. I think Vellani being so good brings a lot of life to the Brie Larson performance, a performance that a lot of people called stale and dry in the last few installments that we've seen Captain Marvel. I never personally thought that Brie Larson was a bad actress in it. I just thought the character of Captain Marvel was uninteresting by design. This movie gives her a lot more to do, and I think Brie Larson is up to it. The weakest of this cast is Teyonah Parris, someone who they give her the most emotional scenes in this movie, and I just don't think they land in any way. Iman Vellani steals this movie. I think this movie should have been focused on her, with everyone else being in support of her. The issue with this movie is Miss Marvel should never have been a TV show. This should have started as a movie, and I think this premise just works so much better as a movie and better introduce Miss Marvel. The issue that the Marvels has is solely pacing. This movie is horrendously paced. It is an hour and 45 minutes, and they are rushing through everything. There are scenes where it's trying to set up scenes that we remember in the Marvels. It is trying to explain things that happen in WandaVision. And it is also trying to be its own film. This means that the Kree aspect, which is the villain aspect of this movie, is completely cut to shreds. You can literally feel scenes of this movie completely edited out. And that hurts the pacing of this movie. Now, it might hurt the story quality of this movie. I will say that it may also improve the overall movie, because if anything more about the Kree and Skrulls is ever put to screen, I'm out on Marvel completely. Kree/Skrull, those wars, whatever you want to call it, failed. This is a done experiment. Marvel should never touch the Krees and Skrulls again. It's a bona fide disaster that they should let die. I never need to see another Skrull story in the MCU. So maybe cutting this out of the Marvels, and it's so prevalently cut in this movie, maybe cutting it out does actually help the movie, and it just keeps what is working of this movie. Because I will say, for the first hour of this movie, I think there's a lot of fun to be had. There are legitimately dynamic fight scenes happening throughout this movie. When the characters switch places due to their powers kind of being interlocked together, it makes for a really fun energy for this film, where it's just pop, 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 pop. And it does give this kinetic energy and like kind of boost to this movie where you're like, oh, okay, this action scene is different and it's really good comic book storytelling. And it really is something new that I haven't seen within the MCU. This first hour where they're just having fun with the powers, exploring what it would look like if these heroes are switching places and just kind of the hijinks of that are legitimately the best part of the movie. The issue is the movie has to get to the third act. And without spoiling the third act, which I will not do, the third act is essentially a setup for other things to come. And it's very frustrating watching it because you feel it speed running to its ending. You can really feel Nia DaCosta, the director, losing control of this movie as Disney comes in here. One example, which you may have heard a lot about already, is this song sequence that happens. I don't want to exactly spoil the context of what it happens, but there is a portion of it where there is a song number. And one of the reasons it is because they auto-tune Brie Larson, which if you know anything about Brie Larson, she has sung in movies before, such as in Scott Pilgrim versus the World. When she was younger, she was this kind of pop star in the early 2000s. I think she was a Disney signed pop star. So she has experience singing. And the most shocking part is they don't even need this Captain Marvel to be that good of a singer. This is not a talent show within the movie. It is quite literally just a kind of joke. And it would have been fine for her not to be auto-tuned and maybe not be able to hold a perfect tune. It wouldn't have affected the movie. But the auto-tune is so bad in this movie that it affects it, and it affects it in a really negative way. And you feel that throughout this movie. There are certain scenes of CGI where you really notice the CGI and it's very prevalent. There's one at the very end of this movie where just like that could have been done with practical effects. In fact, it has been done with practical effects before. It is just ultimately a lot of the issues that we've had with Marvel. And I don't know if this is just Kevin Feige being too overworked, Marvel Studios just having too much in the can right now that they're trying to edit, that they're trying to do VFX work, that they don't have time to spend on these projects. But the Marvels had a winning formula in it. There are qualities of this movie that I can highly recommend. And I think had they built a better film around these three stars, you would have actually had something special, and that would have elevated the source material of the first film and elevated it to a better situation. Ultimately, when I'm comparing this to the 2019 film Captain Marvel, I found the Marvels more fun to watch just because I found the performances to be quite more entertaining, dynamic, and having personality. But when you're just talking about the Marvels as a story, it doesn't really amount to much, and it's just so lost in its way, and it's just too fast for its own good, and there is no compelling story at the center of it, and that is an issue and a fundamental flaw of the Marvels. Thus, I can't say don't go see the Marvels, but I also can't say that this is a need to watch in theaters. If you waited to see it on Disney Plus, you would be fine, and maybe that's the issue. Maybe Disney Plus with WandaVision, with Miss Marvel, with these shows originating on TV and then making the leap to the big screen, that might be the issue where this makes this material feel all the more disposable. And that's why it bombed this weekend. I'm giving the Marvels generously 2.5 out of 4 stars here at the Beneverse Movie Channel. And if you like this video, make sure to follow the channel, like, and subscribe. And thank you all for watching.